And this time I had something like, this person that is talking to having this sermon, I have to prove him wrong. Because it was something in me, drawing me, but it was something else that didn't want me to go that route. So I wanted to, like I want to prove him wrong. So every scriptures he took out, it was all in English, but when he explained it, and I read it in Aramaic, it was like Pastor Dowell was speaking to me in my own language, in Aramaic, so concrete.
Even though you're speaking English, but he spoke in a way that fit your language.
Yes, sir. Yes,
which is what you call concrete, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Wow.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Still today, when he preach in English, I hear him in my own language. So it was from that point on, I tried to still make him like he's wrong, prove him wrong. I did that several times, like 2, 3 services. But I came to a point, I said, what is written, that's what the truth is. And this pastor is telling the truth. I have not seen another pastor. I have not seen another fellowship, another community like Straightway. I never seen, not even our priests, Assyrian priests, they know our language. They have the Bible in front of them. But when they speak, they're speaking and they're preaching is according to the Catholic Church. They have it. They know what the Scripture says. So, but they don't tell the truth. They don't.
So when they preach them, these are Syrian Catholic priests reading the Bible, but they're not speaking your language?
They are speaking my language. They're not Catholic. They're Assyrian priests belonging to the Eastern Assyrian Church, where I grew up in. But when they preach as the Catholic Church preach. But they still say we are not of the Catholic Church.
Okay.
We are different from them. But their doctrine is Catholic. It has nothing to do with the Scripture. It has nothing to do with Jesus Messiah.
So how about the Protestants? You got the Protestants, and I think you have you say it differently, but do they preach differently or closer to your language?
No, not at all. Not at all. It's only a name. I mean, it's like they say they protest against something, but I don't know what it is. They're not protesting against the Catholic Church because they all like the Catholic Church. So they have only all these denominations of Christianity say that they are different than the others, but they're still under the same umbrella of the Catholic Church.
So, but when Pastor Dowell preaches, there is something different from all the religion that you have described in Catholicism or Protestant, but you said that Pastor Dowell is different.
The only thing that makes Pastor Dowell different is not that he preach and his preaching different. It's because he goes by the Scripture. By the Scripture. It's that makes it different from the other. Because the others say we are using the Word, we are using the Scripture, we are following Jesus Messiah, but they are not. I see Pastor Dowell follows him, his lifestyle, all this community, you can find it in the Acts. I mean, not exactly because we live in 2018, but all the concept and the holiness is according to the Scripture. And where else can you see this? In the Catholic Church, and the Protestant, and the Seventh Adventist, or whatever you can put in front of me. I've seen it. Because when I was looking at the truth there, I was trying to prove him wrong. So I was looking here. I didn't look that much because I saw that all these are just fake. They have their own doctrines. They don't follow the Scripture. So I stick to Pastor Dowell.
So when you came, this is powerful. So when you came to, when did you get to the point where, how did you get in contact with Straightway? Okay, now you've been watching this stuff. You're trying to prove him wrong. You're here, so I'm just trying to figure out, how do you get from Sweden to here in the United States? How did that begin? Did you call in to Blog Talk Radio? I mean, how did you make contact with Straightway?
And my first contact was mailing Pastor Dowell.
Okay.
So I mailed him, and I in that time I was seeing.
You mailed him a letter?
I mailed him via internet, email. I emailed him.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I emailed him.
Okay.
And it was at that time he was had a service about the Babylonian captivity and the Assyrian captivity and so on. Excuse me. And he was on point because I know my history. I study my own history. Most of the Assyrians, they don't, like I said, they don't even know their own history. They don't even know their own language. But I had that interest of history, so I have studied history. Not only my history, I studied like European history, Roman history, Greco-Egyptian, Persian, Arabic, and so on and so on. So I've been into history. So I knew my own history. And when he was speaking this, about the Babylonians, about the Assyrians, captivity, and so on, I said I have to write to Pastor. I have to tell him what is the truth, because I know how the Assyrians looked like in their time. They were black. You can see it on their hair, on their braided. They say they braided their beards, but it's all locks, and they have locks in their hair and their beards. And broad noses and so on. And so when you go into history, studying deep history of your own history, like I did, because I was very interested into it, I knew how Assyrians looked like. And I knew how even real Israel looked like, Hebrews looked like. Because they are both Shemites. So I know how Shemites look like. And the word Hebrew comes from the Aramaic word abraya or avraya, and that means passed over. So that's what the rest of the Shemites called the Israelites. They called them Hebrew because they passed over, because they also called Lot a Hebrew, but they did not call him an Israelite. So the Hebrew means passed over. So only a Shemite can be a Hebrew. But everyone can be an Israel. Yes, sir.
Wow. So you study this stuff. So you even say that. So you know that the Israelites or the Hebrews were black, dark skin. Wow.
Yes, sir. And you can, when you ask these questions to our priests, they know this. In the scripture, it says how they are explained. You have it in Daniel. You have it in Revelation. And if you studied history, you know this by 100%. If you know the history of Egyptians, how they look, you're gonna know how the Israelites look like. Because I can look when I've been changed. My Assyrians have been intermingled with other nations. So my color is like this. If Jesus Messiah had this color and looked like me, and I went into Egypt and tried to hide myself, they would say, there's that guy. There are Joseph. There are Maria. There's Messiah. Take them, kill them. Easy.
So when you, it's just interesting to hear somebody that studied this stuff. Obviously, you're not black like me, but you know the true identity of the Israelites, right? And so when you see people making movies of Jesus white and blue eyes and long hair, did you know that before, that how the world saw Jesus, or did the Assyrians just always saw Jesus as dark skinned? Did you? I mean, I'm in America. I grew up in America. I always saw Jesus a white man, blue eyed. You know, and just recently they started trying to make him maybe look more like you, because the Syrians and stuff like that. But I just coming into this stuff. But did you guys know how the world saw Jesus, or did you? Was your view that Jesus was, in your heathen days, that he was a black man, or
no? Not like a black man.
Okay.
Because I didn't study the Bible. I knew the history of it.
Okay.
I knew that we have been intermingled with other nations that have been changed us. I mean, if you go and look at the Arabs nowadays, they look like me. Like I look like a so-called Middle Eastern people.
yes?
And the Arabs look like me. But if you study the history, how the Arabs were, they were black too. They were also black. But in the church, in our Assyrian church, if you go back in the old churches, you see the paintings, they are dark. They're not blue-eyed and so on. They look like me, or even darker than me, but not blue-eyed.
Okay.
And European-looking. And also, when you go in old Russian churches, if you see it, you go study that, you're gonna see in the old churches they have paintings that they are of dark skin, not blue-eyed and pink skin.
Okay.
They are of dark skin, and this is something to be considered as racist. It's only truth, and because if you know the truth, you have to say the truth, and that's it.
That's it.
Racism is a whole other thing, and that's another segment. We don't even need to go into that.
But just that you are aware of that, you knew that just from your own just knowing your history, and a lot of the Syrians would know that what you just said.
Yeah, but they still most of the Assyrians don't study their own history. They don't study the Bible. So when they think about Jesus, they think that Jesus looked like me, like them. Yeah, and the Europeans think that Jesus looked like Europeans. I mean, there are churches even in India. There's old churches. When you study the history, when the Romans came in to the church in India where Thomas had went and preached the gospel. They had painted all the apostles dark skin. Dark skin.
So another question I have for you. So when you came here, so what made you? So when you and Pastor Dowell was communicating through emails, and you were just saying, what made you finally say, I'm going to come out here? And when you did come out here, what was that like? What was that experience like coming out here?
The thing was, yes, we were communicating by email, me and Pastor, and I called in. Yeah, I finally called in to the
Blog Talk?
No, not to the Blog Talk. The first time to Dining Hall. First time I called in to Dining Hall. I think I spoke to Deacon Bell, or it was
Becker, maybe?
No, it was Deacon Bell.
Oh, okay.
And Pastor Dowell was outside of Dining Hall, and I also spoke to Sister Ashley. Okay. And then I spoke to Pastor Dowell. Okay. So I made myself known through email, but also I called in and made myself known in that way. And when I first came to Straightway, I mean, I had already...
You were sold in on Straightway before you came out here?
I was not sold in Straightway. Okay. I was not sold in Straightway. Okay. I was sold into the truth. Okay. Into the truth. Okay. I was sold into the scriptures. Okay. I had started to keep the Sabbath, keep the laws, dietary laws. Okay. So we went by the scriptures. And I started to study the Bible. Not read the Bible. I studied the Bible. Okay. And the first time when I came to Straightway, the first thing I felt was peace. And then I saw how they lived. And then, after that, I was sold to Straightway. Because if I tell you I'm sold into truth and I see that you are of the truth, will I say that you are a liar? I can't. I can't. Then I saw the Straightway is living the truth. They are preaching the truth, but they are living the truth also. Both things. Not only preaching. Many people can preach the truth and say the truth, but are you living it? That's the difference. Wow. So there was then, my first time I came, I told my wife, this is how they live. And this is, here's the Acts. Look how they lived, and they were in fellowship. All things were common, and they lived like one, in oneness, in unity.
And you felt that when you came out here.
I felt that. I felt the peace. I felt the unity. I felt how the brothers were with each other. It was all love. It was all respect. It was all love, and not that kind of love they have out in the world. The love that is in the Scripture.
Wow. So you've been how long have you been following Straightway?
Now I've been following Straightway 1.5 years. 1.5
years, just a little bit more than I have, and I remember seeing you when you came out here. I think you came out. I mean, this is not your first feast. How many feasts have you been out here?
2 feasts.
2 feasts, and I remember
this is my 3rd time.
Yeah, and I remember when I was looking into it, he was interviewing about how you know the language, and so it's just kind of cool to be doing this interview with you. So you've been doing this, and you've done a great job. What's the biggest impact that Straightway has done for you and your family since you've been in the truth or in this ministry?
That I have brothers and sisters that live the truth, and I have a preacher, an honorable preacher, Pastor Dowell, that preached the truth and does not compromise. Whomever it is in front of him, he does not compromise. And that is a big impact for someone that says that I love Jesus Messiah and I accept the truth, because Jesus Messiah says, I am the truth. If you say that you love Jesus Messiah and you love the truth, and you see that you get that preaching and it's all truth, what else do you need?
Would you say that with your wife, did she accept it right away? Did she follow you? Says, well, this is what you want, I want, or did she fight back a little bit? How would you describe her? Because I'm assuming you found it before her.
Yes,
and she was going to church a little bit more than you were. How did she receive it when you introduced this to your wife?
In that time, there was a lot of questions concerning how the head covering was, because this head covering thing is a big issue in Christianity.
Even in Assyria, in Sweden, but even in Assyrian culture.
Among the Assyrians, it's a big thing also. But if you go just one generation back or two generations back, like my grandparents,
They were doing it.
they were doing it. There was no question. They didn't eat pig, and the women covered their head. So it was not a big deal like that. But it was many questions. But I explained everything thoroughly. Like I went into everything and I explained why and how and so on. And I backed it up with scriptures. And I said, this is the truth. Either you accept the truth, then you can live with me. If you don't accept the truth, there's the door. You have your family, you have that. That's it. No hard feelings. You go where you go. But I'm going to follow this. And if you want to live with me, you're going to follow this. No compromise. Because I'm not compromising this. And that's it. And it was a struggle, it was a process, but it was an ongoing process, and with patience and with much having a bit of tolerance also, not only patience but tolerance in the beginning, not to be too straightforward and make a person think that this is like I'm being imprisonment, because she understood the truth by herself. She chose by herself because she understood. Okay, I explained it for her. I backed it up with the scriptures, but I never told her you have to do this. The only thing I said, if you love Jesus Messiah, here's the scriptures. If you love me, if you want to stay with me, this is how I'm gonna live. And she understood it and she accepted it, because she accepted the truth in her. But it was a process. And it was back and forth discussions, so on, explanation, explain this, and so on, so on. So it has been a journey. It has been a journey.
But you don't regret it. She doesn't really know. She's in it. I mean, I've got to meet your wife. Beautiful child. So she's sold into it now, right? I mean,
yes,
okay.
And I do not regret it even 1 second. Do not regret anything.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Let me ask you this question: polygyny. I just want to, ministry. This is a ministry now. I don't know how it's in the Eastern culture. I'm assuming because the Muslims, they do. But when polygyny came up, but you came in toward the end. How is polygyny viewed in Christian in Sweden, but in the Syrian culture? And when you heard that, did that something that kind of like, whoa, this is not something they teach me? How is polygyny viewed from your upbringing or from where you live?
No, polygyny in itself is a sin. Okay. That's how they see it. Okay. That's how they see it. All Christian, like I told you, all the Christians, they tell you that we are of the Eastern Church, or we are Protestants, or so and so on. But they go after the Catholic umbrella. Okay. It's all about that. So and the Christian Assyrians, they see polygyny as a sin. Okay. If you have more than one wife, that's you sinning against your wife that you have. If you're going getting another wife, that's like a very big sin and so on. So, but for me, when I saw the scriptures, when I studied the scriptures, I had never heard about polygyny and Christianity, or I shouldn't say Christianity, I should followers of Messiah, followers of Messiah. I have never heard this explanation from any preacher, of any priest, so-called priest, and so on and so on. Pastor started to preach this, and when I read it in the scripture, there was no question about it, because that's what the scripture says, and he preached it, and I know, I see it, I read it by myself, and that's what the truth is, and that's it. There's no discussion about it.
How would you say that your wife took the polygyny view? Because she grew up in the Christian, in Sweden and everything. How did she handle the polygyny topic?
That was a struggle. That was a struggle. But I know my wife, she loves me, but she was also a lover of truth, my wife.
Okay.
So I saw the struggle in her, and she said, I accept polygyny because that's what the scripture says. Because I said to her, whatever the scripture says, I accept it. Whatever that is written by the word, that's the word, I accept it. No compromise. And she said, yeah, I accept it, but I always saw a struggle. She couldn't accept it fully. So
she's still working through that emotionally, you think?
No, not now.
Okay.
No.
Well, before, okay.
This I'm talking about like 8 months ago.
Okay.
8 months ago.
Okay.
The first year was the most struggle for us. The first year. The last 6-7 months, whatever it is in the scripture, we accept it. And I know this of my wife also, that she accepts polygyny now, and that's what the scripture says. So, but it is a process. That process is even more big of a process for women than for us men.
It seems like you were very patient with your wife. You know, it seemed like even though you told just where we're going, but you had compassion and patience. Is that safe to say? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it just seems like it wasn't like she took it as fast as you took it, and you had to kind of work with her in this process.
Yes, so I always had to try to have patience with her, because I knew in the beginning how it was difficult for me to accept everything, even because how I was and how I am now is two different persons. Even my wife can testify of that.
So, and then I'll end on this one. A lot of people will say that a lot of people that's a part of Straightway are either brain dead or they don't really think. They just follow whatever. Would you say you're the kind of guy that just follow the crowd just because everybody else is doing it, I'm going to do it? I mean, would you describe yourself like that coming into this stuff? Did you just follow because it just seemed like a cool thing to do, or how would you describe yourself?
No, so I wouldn't say that I'm just one who follows. Like if a leader is in front of me and I see that he's a leader, I'm gonna follow him. No, it depends what kind of leader it is. It depends if it's of the truth. I mean, if someone speaks the truth and I know it's the truth. If I know it's the truth, I have to say this. If I know, then I'm gonna follow him. But if I don't know, I am a person that questions a lot. I do not only question myself, I do question others people also. When I hear someone speak, I try to not only question what he's speaking, but I try to question what is the motive of that person. And I do that with myself also. So because when I read the scriptures, I studied the scriptures, I had a lot of questions. I had a lot of questions in myself. Shall I follow this? Shall I not follow this? What is this and what does it mean? So it's a way, you have to weigh everything. You have to weigh, you have to count the way of everything. So like the scripture says, you have to count the cost. You have to count the cost. And that's in everything, in every aspect of our life. I'm like that person, I count the cost in everything. What is it? What will this mean? Now, some things are like they are so plain. You understand them like perfectly of the scripture. I go by it. But some things, like for example, polygyny. I didn't understand it at the beginning, but what the scriptures said, it was easier for me to accept it than my wife. But still, I had that questioning in me. I had it. I cannot deny it. But now, I do not have it, because I understand it. Now I know the truth. It's always this. If I know the truth, then it's not that I question someone just for the questioning, but I am a person that question a lot. So I'm not. I won't tell you that I'm a person. If you say something, it seems good for me or it sounds good, I'm gonna accept it. I'm not about if sounds good or seems good. I want to know the truth. If it's the truth, who am I to say something?
Let me ask this. You was talking about, and I know I'm going to end this one, but you was mentioning about how pastors in the Christianity, they're all about money. So how are they going to get your money? Did you ever sense that in the time that you have known Pastor Dowell or known this ministry, that has been about money for him? I mean, obviously everybody needs money, but have you experienced that with Pastor Dowell? Some of the, with, like you said about Christian pastors?
Not at all. Not at all. It's a big difference. And that's also one of the things that I can say our pastor, this Pastor Dowell, is an honorable man. He doesn't play games. He doesn't tell you and try to get you guilty feelings, because that's what they did. I remember when I was 14, 15 years, like my mother, she gave us like money. So when we got forth to the pulpit there, they had their basket. We put money in it, so on. After the preaching, it was like I felt so guilty. I was like 14, 15 years, but I still wanted to just give the money, because I was like, I don't want to make Jesus upset or God upset. But the difference with pastor, he doesn't make you feel guilty. Nothing. It's you by yourself when you read the scripture. You want to give. And how much you give, it's on you. No one can say to you, you give this much or this little and so. It's you and your conscience and your belief. That's it. But I never felt that with Pastor Dowell, telling someone, we need to do this. If we don't give to the assembly or to the community, we are not of the truth, or Jesus will not love us, or something like that. Nothing. I haven't felt it. I haven't heard it. Nothing like that.
I think it was good. Well, thank you so much, Reimond, for coming. I appreciate you. Love you. I'm glad I got to even know you more.
Thank you, brother.
Shalom.
Shalom.
So you are mentally trained, this is beauty. You're not trained that beauty is the way Yah made you. When Yah created woman, he didn't create us with makeup on. He didn't create us with weave in our hair. So you're really spitting in Yah's face to say, the way you made me is not beautiful. I need to put on makeup and earrings and doll myself up to be beautiful.